Happy Monday. Good to be back with y'all, friends and family across the pond, near and far. It's good to be back. Yes, we are back again. It's Monday. I feel like we just met last week, right? Yes, good to be back. Good afternoon, wherever you listen from. Good morning, good evening, good night. Hello. Welcome back for Prayer for Marriages. This is your girls, truly Evangelist Nikki McKenzie, along with our visionary, glory to God, behind the scene. Will be a little bit, but we have tonight. Guess who's going to be in the hot seat tonight, taking the lead tonight? The one and only evangelist Marcia Baker. Yes. Clap it up for our visionary. Because of her vision, we are here to share in it. Glory to God. So we thank God for impressed on her to step out at such a right time when it's so needed, This ministry has been instrumental to me, my family, my marriage, people around me, and I know it has been instrumental to you. So we're glad to be here to share in the vision. And what we encourage you to do, share. Please share. The best thing you can do for us is to share. Do not keep it all to yourself. Share it with your friends. Share it with anyone that you know that is aspiring to be married. Even if they have such an amazing marriage, there's always something for us to learn, right? Because we're about growing and be better. So this is the place to be. So we thank you for your support. We thank you for tuning in week over week. And even when we're not on, we notice the guy catch the replay. So guess what? We can't ask for more. So thank you all again. And guess what happening? We're back this week with an amazing topic. I know it was a little bit of trigger for some folks last week when we had to divulge into this topic. For some people still going through their healing process. Some people have not yet been healed. Some people have not even identified their triggers yet, right? And we understand, and we know this is a very sensitive topic. So again, are you self-sabotaging your marriage due to your trigger? So this is part 2. We started last week. If you missed part 1, don't be dismayed. You can go back and catch the replay. So tonight we are gonna go in and part 2, are you self-sabotaging your marriage due to your triggers? And in order to do that, you have to be honest with yourself, like we said. You have to identify what your triggers are, right? Because you can't get healing if you deny what's happening with you and externally pointing finger that is somebody else, right? So we want us to be able to look into ourselves, like we said, do the self-assessment and examine yourself. And it's okay to raise your hand and say, you know what, I did not even know that was a trigger for me. I did not know this is why this made me feel this way. And if you are honest with yourself and realize triggers started in our childhood, or caregivers, or parents, how we were raised, it does shape how we do relationship. And we want us to be whole. We want us to be healed and identify what's going on with our triggers and what we can do to make us better, right? So again, I'm going to start off tonight tonight we're going to start off with our visionary evangelist Marcia Baker in the kingdom. Tonight she's going to take the lead and pick up from where we left off, part 2. Tonight again, for Are You Self-Sabotaging Your Marriage? Come on in, evangelist. Come on in. What does he say tonight?
Hello. Happy Monday. You know what? These weeks are just going by too quick. It's just too quick. It's just really too quick. The weeks are just happening really fast, and I'm not happy with the weeks. But hey, listen, the Bible speaks of it. He shortened the days for the elect's sake, right? So happy Monday, everybody. Welcome again. I am yours truly, Marcia Baker, an evangelist in the kingdom. And Evangelist Nikki said, thank you, Evangelist Nikki, for coming on and being with us again. Now, last week it was just so good. And we give you a half an hour, maybe 25 minutes ish. Sometimes we go over, right? But we give you enough to bring you back because it's only for a half an hour. Remember, if we're to pray, it's for a half an hour. So we're going to teach, and it's going to be for a half an hour. And that's just giving us we don't want to give you too much all at one time, because per the psychology report, anything over 20 minutes, we've lost your interest. So we're right on target with the half an hour. All right. So listen, are you self-sabotaging your marriage due to your triggers? Somebody might say, what are my triggers? Am I toxic? So how do I know that I'm toxic or I have triggers? Now, this is one thing I know was a trigger for me or an issue for me before I got married, because before I got married, I dealt with most of my triggers. I say most because I still have some minor ones. They're not severe. So we're never going to be perfect going into a marriage, but we want to make sure all of our severe issues are dealt with before we take on another person in our space, right? So I know I was not abandoned, I was rejected by my father at a young age. So when I would be in relationships, I would end the relationship before the other person could. Like if I even thought that they were gonna break up with me, I would break up with them first. So that was a trigger for me. Like if I felt like I was gonna be abandoned in the relationship, so I was fearful of being rejected by like persons who I was dating or courting, right? And so, or in a relationship with. And so before they could say, all right, I don't want this relationship anymore, I would break it off, right? So and that's a trigger for a lot of people, and we carry it over into marriage. And so as I was reading on this site called Talkspace, and it says that fear of abandonment or intimacy is a primary cause of self-sabotage, right? So if you're fearful of becoming intimate with your partner, you may start an argument. You start an argument like over real petty stuff. Maybe they was in the shower too long, or maybe they didn't dry off properly, or maybe they used the wrong soap and you don't like the body wash, or you don't like the fragrance, or it triggers your allergies, or something really, really minor, or they left the toilet seat down up, or she left the razor blade in the on the sink, and we have our own little OCD things that we don't like, right? So we tend to start arguments because we don't want to become intimate, fear of intimacy. So little things like that become big issues if you're in a relationship and you're fearful of intimacy. Maybe you've been molested, maybe you've been sexually assaulted, and you haven't really told that to your partner. So you just feel like, I don't know how to tell him or her, right? Because men do get molested and sexually abused, right? So I don't know how to explain it to my partner. So I'm self-sabotaging by withholding. Not that I'm withholding on purpose, but I'm not telling them that, listen, I have issues with intimacy because of what happened to me as a child. Remember when we talked about the trust in trust in relationship, trust issues in relationship, we say most of those issues come from childhood trauma that are now appearing in our adult life. And we've often spoken said that childhood trauma, if you don't deal with it, if you don't deal with any issue that you're having, you best believe that when you get married, it's going to become a monkey on your back, or a gorilla on your back, or a giraffe on your back, or an elephant in the room, right? And so if you don't deal with it and communicate and say, listen, I was abandoned as a kid by my parents, and so or I'm an orphan, or I've been in foster care, whatever your abandonment issue is or your fear of intimacy issue is, that needs to be dealt with, so your partner now before marriage can say, I don't know if I can deal with this or I can deal with it. But the conversation needs to be had, right? So research also shows that people might self-sabotage for other reasons, right? And we've dealt with these issues, right? For example, trust issues, limited relationship skills. Now, I don't like confrontation. That's me. I don't like confrontation. I don't process being confronted too good, right? But I'm learning, right? My husband, he's not a confronter, right? He doesn't like confrontation, doesn't like argument. Me, on the other hand, I'll argue, but when I'm confronted about an issue within me, I have issues explaining it, and I'm working on that, right? Because that could be a trauma or a trigger. So I'm working on learning how to process stuff, process confrontations in the moment. I'm learning. I'm learning how to do it, right? And so that can do it, right? Unrealistic expectations. We spoke about that a couple of weeks ago. Low self-esteem. Somebody could have low self-esteem and you self-sabotage your relationship. Your person said, if you're struggling with your weight, let's just put it that way, because we all struggle with our weight, male or female, right? If you're struggling with your weight and your partner make a comment, oh, why you eating that ice cream? Oh my God, that's World War V, right? That's war. That's war. And you know, that right there can blow up into something that's unnecessary, right? So when we say self-sabotage, we have to look and see what our triggers are. What are my triggers? What is happening with me while I keep arguing? It could be over finances. Your spouse may not make as much money as you would like for them to make right now. And you notice how I'm wording it, right? Making right now, because anything can change, right? And so that could be a trigger for you. So we need to learn how, and let me tell you something. It all boils down to effective communication, right? Because most of the time, Evangelist Nick, and I want you to chime in on this, most of the time we don't know how to express ourselves without arguing or carrying on and, you know, just going off for a simple thing, right? And so we have to be mindful. I want you to come in and chime in a little bit, not a little bit, but just chime in right there, Evangelist Nikki.
Right. Especially a lot of time because we're triggered, we do what is called avoidance, right? So when the issue brings up, like you said, if you don't like confrontation, we'll divert. You know, we'll try to make it seem like, you know what, it's not the right time. I don't want to talk about it right now. I will find every excuse. You know what, I got to go to work. I got to go work overtime. Anything to avoid that person to have that conversation. And a lot of time when we do decide to have the conversation, what we do, we make it about the person and not the issue. Said, you're attacking me, right? Because it's easy to divert and place the blame outside instead of examine self, because then we feel like we can't be vulnerable because we're not safe in this situation. When the person just might be just genuine, right? But then we take it personal instead of addressing what the issue is, instead of addressing the person itself. So a lot of time we do that, and most of my, I know you mentioned a couple earlier, but even think about even overworking. It's an avoidant issue. If your spouse said we need to have a conversation or we need to have a talk, oh my gosh, we start playing a whole lot of movie in our head of what this is going to be about, right? So what we'll do, we avoid people who have abandonment issue, you know, scared of confrontations, do not want to be criticized, do not want to be taken accountability or called out on something that might be helping them because they can't see they're going the wrong way. They will use work as an excuse to overwork. They will use shopping to anything to get out of the house to keep them away from their spouse, especially if they know their spouse love language is quality time. They will sabotage it by being avoided, staying away, and come up with all different excuses. And if you find yourself doing those things, you got to examine yourself. Where did this come from? Who did not show up for me when I was younger? And you gave a couple of examples. It might be abandoned by your parents, or you might be living with your parents, but you never have a voice, right? You never get a chance to speak. When you're hurt, they tell you be quiet. You know what I mean? When you raise your hand to say something, you're always told to, you know, your voice doesn't matter. So we get in that situation where we're like, we can't deal with confrontation because you're attacking me. So it's best if I protect self by staying quiet. And that's not helping, because anything that is buried, guess what? It's going to rise again. It's going to come
rise up. You're right. Because listen, when we bury stuff, sometimes we think we're burying it, but it grows underneath the ground and springs.
Yes, it's growing relatives. It's I call them sibling. You know, you have you're sad, you're depressed, you're angry, you're lashing out, you're arguing about something like you said, trivial, like the dishes in the sink. two or a cup in the sink or something, and you make it be a big deal, storming out the house. I can't deal with a dirty sink. One cup in the sink. I'm out of here. I can't deal with this. And anything to avoid the person. And we're laughing, but we can see ourselves at time if we want to be honest with ourselves. And a lot of time we didn't see that it was an issue with it. But the more mature we get and understand why we do what we do, it makes sense to look back and say, wow, how did I get here? Right? Mm-hmm. What started this? And a lot of people don't like to go back to their childhood. I was one of that person. I'm like, the past is the past. I don't need to deal with the past. But guess what? If you don't address the past, it will show up in your present and your future, like Evangelist alluded to earlier. So it's best to address it and understand, why am I gaslighting my spouse, right? Why do I complain when I see him on the phone? And I told folks, when people said phone is the issue, the phone cannot do anything without somebody behind the phone, right? But that's some trigger for some folks because you're avoiding me. I'm here with you. I don't matter. Why you have to be reaching out there? And if, God forbid, if you see your spouse pick up the phone, going to the restroom or taking a shower with the phone or whatever, have their phone facing down, glory to God, all hell start breaking loose, right? Because you feel like you don't matter. They're avoiding you. And it comes from a place, like we said, we grew up and don't realize that our parents do the best they know how. Sometimes it's not their intention, right? But how we interpret that, and the movie we play in our head, right? How we interpret that is what we use now to go in a relationship. Well, if my mom or my dad was not there, if they didn't show up for me, why would I expect another stranger to show up for me? Why should I be vulnerable to you when I was vulnerable to my parents, and this is what they do with it? So we start analyzing the why we should not. Instead of saying, you know what? My parents was not probably in a healthy space, or they didn't have a clue how this was impacting me. But now that I know how it impacted me, let's have those conversations. But we're scared to have those conversations with our spouse. A lot of folks is scared to be vulnerable with their spouse. And without being vulnerable, you can't build trust. Because you're always going to pull up a wall. That you cannot build trust if you're not able to be vulnerable with the person that you're having a coma with every night. Or whatever time of day you have it. You know what I mean? You can go to bed, sleep with this person, safe and sound. But you can't open your mouth and say, this is how it makes me feel when I see you always giving your phone attention. This is how it makes me feel when you yell at me. This is how it makes me feel when you raise your voice. This is how it makes me feel when, I ask you to check in and I can't get a hold of you when I try to check in with you, right? Or if I have a rough day and I try to talk to you and you dismiss me. Oh, I'll call back later. Can we pick this up later when you really wanted to vent? You feel abandoned. Some people said, you know what? I have the great news at work. And the first thing they do, they call their spouse and like, babe, I know it's really important, but can we talk about this later? And some people, it's a trigger for some folks. Oh my God, there he go, abandon me. He doesn't have time for me. It's never a good time. Every time I want to talk. And that's not true. If we be honest with ourselves, they're never available. They're always on their phone. They're always avoiding me. And we use this phrase and it's not true, because people have other issues too that they're dealing with. But then we expect them to come and be our superhero, our be all, save all, right? And when they're not responding the way we want them to respond, when they're not showing up the way we want them to show up, we said they are the problem. They are hurting me over again. They should have known better, right? But we have not addressed how that make us feel. So how they're going to help us to grow and heal when we ourselves is not even willing to confront the triggers that we're facing. So that's what we're saying. We can see how we are showing up for others, right? And we said they never show up for us. But in their head, they might say you don't show up for them either.
Right.
But the difference is, how does that make you feel? Does it make you feel more empowered? Does it make you feel more joyful? But if it's constantly making you sad, put in a place of depression, put in a place of fear, where you feel like I'm in this by myself, I'm in a relationship, but I'm lonely, then it's time to examine self. And guess what? Once you examine self, and if you can't find what's going on, we empowered you on this platform. We can't stress this enough. Yes, it's good to have spiritual leaders. Yes, it's good to have, counselors in the church and stuff like that. But we empower to seek outside help. Seek wise counseling. Therapy works, but you have to work it. Therapy works. But you have to show up and you have to do the work. And we have a plethora of therapists here. I'm speaking to one right now. Evangelist Baker. Yes, a shameless plug. She is A therapist if you need to talk, right? So
Mhm.
we have so many resources out there to help us to be a better steward. But until we start taking accountability for self, we will continue move from relation to relationship. And guess what? We keep dating the same spirit in another body because who is a spirit? Is us. We're gonna attract the spirit within if we don't deal with it. If you have abandonment issue, you're gonna keep dating people that's gonna abandon you because you're dating the spirit of fear. And until you conquer that fear, it's not gonna go away.
Absolutely
So
true.
that's why we empowered youth. He's like, oh my gosh, she's from different walks of life, different background, but they all treat me the same. All men are the, so we get all men are the same. No, sweetie, you're the only one showing up in your relationship, right? So until you start taking assessment back and examine yourself, why am I attracting these type of spirits? Remember, anything within, you're gonna attract it outside if you don't deal with it. Sound good?
That listen, I tell you, it's amazing sometimes when we think like we have this like humongous issue, and then once you talk about it, you be like, why was I upset about that? Right? Why did I just do that? Right? So we have to self-examine to make sure we're not the ones that self-sabotaging our marriage. And then so how can I stop self-sabotaging my marriage, right? Number one, you're going to identify, why am I behaving this way? Why is my behavior like that? Because there's always a root cause. Sometimes we just treat the symptoms of the cold and not go
Yes.
into make sure we don't have bronchitis or pneumonia. We don't check our respiratory system to make sure that it's not just a regular cold, right? So why am I sabotaging my relationship, right? Identify the reason for your behavior. There's always a reason. There's a root cause. Like on my job, I have to find the root cause of the provider issue. Why we're not paying them the correct amount of money we need to pay them. I have to identify the root cause. Are we paying per contract? Are they billing correct? You understand what I'm saying? So we have to identify what is causing me to behave that way. Why am I reacting that way towards my partner? And also learning how to control your thoughts. And I'm going to say, ladies, can I say ladies on that? Can I
We
say
play movies
ladies
in our
on
head.
that? Ladies, can I say ladies on that one? Y'all know how we do. Ladies. Listen, learn how to control your thoughts. Let me tell you, we can get a thought in our head. It doesn't necessarily have to go that way. But once it's in our head, the move we done wrote
We
the
start replaying it. Yes.
we done have
Very
100,000
close.
page script as to what happened, and it could be furthest from it, and then it could be you could be spot on, but it's how we communicate it, right?
Yeah.
Let's
Yes.
control our thoughts, because our thought, listen, we men
We bear fruit now.
men men are creatures of habit. They do the same thing over and over and over again. The
Sisters,
moment
yeah.
we recognize them doing something different, something's up. Something is up.
Oh, the triggers goes up.
The
The
triggers
antenna
go
triggers
off.
goes up. Oh,
Listen,
you
the bells, the
stop it.
sirens, so many things goes off, and it could have been a traffic jam. He's normally home by 5, and 5:05, 5:10, and we're watching the clock to see what. And his phone is dead. He forgot his charger. Let me say she as well too. She forgot her charger, and but they don't get home to maybe 7 because it was a traffic jam. It was a oil spill on the road. You saw the news, but that didn't even play into your head to say that's the direction that they're coming. That's the direction that they're coming from. So what we do is we have this whole scenario in our head as to why they're late, what they're doing, who they're with. We start writing the script. And it could be first. Yes, an alarm goes off, Lady Nahima. Alarm goes off, and they could be furthest. They could be innocent, stressing out. Oh my God, my phone is dead. I don't have a car charger. I left my regular charger home, and I don't have another phone. I'm just stuck. I'm stuck on the I, whether it's 95 north or south, right? Or 75. And We need to learn how to control our thoughts. Ladies, please, and I'm saying ladies because I don't think the men are as bad, but ladies, I know how I
Goes both
am.
ways. It goes both ways because, like I said, we all have traumas,
Yeah,
and the men have abandonment issue too. Men have
yes,
clingy
they
issue too,
do.
and needy issue too. So they're not exempt because we
No.
all have trauma, and it's how we deal with it. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? Because some people are super clingy, and that's their trigger. If I can't get, I need to hear this person. But they won't call. Some of them, and if they do call, God forbid they call and they can't get the person, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, we're ready to give them the Bible. That's the proper way to put
Listen,
it.
let me
But
tell
it's
you.
communication.
Yeah,
Communication is
communication is key.
important. If you don't tell a person how to treat you and you accept it, like you said, and we said it on a different platform, teach people how to treat you. Don't
Mm-hmm.
just go with the flow. Don't just go along to get along when you know you're dying inside and you're hurt. And a lot of people, like you said earlier, some people might have molestation and stuff like that, and they themselves have not dealt with that trauma. So yes, it's not easy for them to verbalize it to others. And if you have not, then you need to get help because then it's gonna show up in the bedroom.
It's gonna show
It's
up.
gonna show up.
It's gonna show up. It's gonna show up.
So
It's gonna show up, and it's gonna expose you, right? And then
yes,
that's going to be
yes.
another issue. So it's best to
Yes.
communicate it. And we've had several topics on communication, not on this platform. Yes, I think we've had it on here,
Yes,
and
yes,
we had it on
several.
Before
Yeah.
You Say I Do. That's our Thursday night community. We plug in
Effective
for that. So
communication.
we
Yeah.
communication in everything is key, and I'm learning that more each day. I'm learning, and I'm seeing. Sometimes I'll go back over the communication um sessions that we did with Lady Donica, just to make sure I'm getting it right and I'm saying the right things at the appropriate time. Not that I'm programmed, but you want to make sure you're communicating, and not just communicating, but that it's effective, right? Another thing we need to and this is part of communicating, talk with your partner. Talk to them. Talk
Yeah, don't
with
talk at
them.
them, talk to
Right.
them, right? Yeah, don't yell out because your feeling got hurt. No, nobody listening in an argument because
No.
everybody's trying to win at that time. There's not a
Right.
dialogue going on there. The whole goal in an argument is to win. That's the mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna one upon you. So there's no one listening. So, like we always said before, temperature, check the temperature. See what's going on with them. Time and place is very important when you want to have those type of
Mm-hmm.
communication so they can hear you. So you're not just speaking just to respond, but you're speaking to understand. So
Right.
when they hear they can't say there was no miscommunication, you check for clarity and follow up. It's important because we want to be well-rounded human being. But to identify what our triggers are, it starts with us be real, raw,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
honest with
Mm-hmm.
self.
Yes.
And whether you want to write it down, just it's good to backtrack. Why is this constantly bothering me? If I'm even sometimes it's not only you can even see where it lies. If you're at work, it's the same problem you're facing. You're in your marriage, you're facing the
Yep.
same issue, and you're the only person. If it's with your family reunion and you show up with your family, they're all saying the same thing. And it's
Yep.
time to take an assessment. Oh, and
Yeah.
she just have thin skin. She's so sensitive. You know what I mean? It's a reason why. But you got to be real in order to get healed. Somebody said, if you're a friend with the devil, then guess what? You're not going to run him out.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That is true. That is true. That is true. And we have to make sure that we're talking to or with, not at, because no one likes to be spoken at. Don't talk at me, because that's demeaning and putting them down, right? Yes, Lady Nahima said that this thing called self is not a nice spirit. It's not. It's not. And that's why we now have to be intentional about how we're going to treat our spouse and how we're going to not self-sabotage our marriage, right? Our marriage. And once we learn how to um deal with our triggers and work in our self-esteem and our self-worth and our self-value, we would see the world in a whole new light. And like Evangelist
Yes.
Nikki said, when you tell people how you want to be treated, and when you behave the way you want to be treated too, right? And so you can't behave like one thing but then want another thing, right? So we
You
have
want
to,
respect, but you're disrespecting others. It
right,
doesn't go
no, it
like that.
doesn't
You
work
have
like
to.
that. We have to come to a common consensus and say, you know what, it's me, it's me. Self accountability. How about we
Ability.
normalize that? Right? Well,
Yes, yes,
help me, Jesus. Help
yes,
me, Lord. Help
yes,
me. It's
yes,
me. It's me, right? So listen,
yes.
you see the time is 7:33 already. Listen, it doesn't take much before the half an hour run off. So I hope we said something, and we're gonna come back with part 3 because we're not finished. I still have some more stuff on the list, and I'm sure Evangelist Nikki has some more stuff, and we can pull out some more stuff out of this because I want the goal of this ministry, Prayer for Marriages, is to reach families, marriages, one couple at a time. So for this week, if we brought a family back together based on how they express themselves, how they value themselves, how they're talking about, you know what, I've been abandoned, I have fear of intimacy. If we've helped you one couple tonight, we have done our job for the week. Amen. And so that's the goal of this marriage. We want you to be in a healthy living relationship, healthy marriage. We don't just want you to be existing. So, no, we want you to be happy when someone asks you about your spouse. Say, "Oh my God!" they can feel the chemistry because it's felt, right? It's felt, and we can tell when persons are disgruntled. We don't want to show that in
And
the
be like,
public.
you ever hear somebody said, "How's things going on?" Just watch child pray for him.
Job, right?
That's
No.
great. That's the
Listen,
whole
and
right
and,
there.
and, it, and it could be that way. It could be that way, but it can change. We're going to change the narrative of marriages. They're going to be healthy, right? The marriage between a man and a woman is going to be healthy, right? Because we are a Bible-based ministry who want couples to be healthy and be healthy with themselves, right? So that they can be healthy for their spouse. Listen, I love you all so much. Listen, I am excited. Listen, if you have not yet joined our Thursday night community, I'm inviting you to come out this Thursday. We're going to talk about why do people date down? Why do men or women date down? That's what we're going to be talking about this week. And Lord have mercy, it's going to be fire. All right. So I want to invite you to come out this week, and we're just so happy that you're always here supporting us. Listen, if you're on YouTube, I'm going to ask you that you share this video. If you're on Facebook, I want to ask you also to share this video for us, because you never know who this session is going to help. All right. So we love you. To my Canadian people, my Canadian family, happy Thanksgiving. To my American family, happy Columbus Day. And I don't know what other celebration is going on in the other neck of the woods, but I know it's Columbus Day for us here in the United States, and in Canada it's Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving, happy Columbus Day. Listen, have a blessed rest of your week, and go and communicate with your spouse. Amen. We love you. See you next time. God bless you.